Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Women of Consciousness. Super, super excited for this new journey that we're about to embark on. As you know, Spirit and Coffee has transitioned into Women of Consciousness. I have taken a long pause, long break from the podcast because it was time for me to sort of reinvent myself. And part of alchemy is, constantly shifting and changing, being aware when a big shift is about to occur, understanding how to, come to a new ways of being and understanding the world and engaging the world. And that's kind of what happened. I ended up doing a master's program, as you guys know. And so in doing that, a lot shifted. And part of that was like the podcast just kind of was dissipated, but not necessarily completely dissolved, because I decided that, what do I want to do in terms of the podcast? And was kind of feeling like it needed a revamp or a fresh new face or a new start. So what ends up happening is, I'm doing this beautiful program, and then how wonderful to meet a community of individuals that are like-minded, and kind of started focusing my energy on that more often. And then now, graduated finally with my master's of consciousness and transformative studies, and met some amazing people, and now have a partnership with someone who I had been wanting to do this work with an individual for so long, but couldn't really find the right fit of person. And now finally found someone who, is amazing. We think the same, and she brings her own unique gifts. We're very have differences, right? Which is awesome. And that's what I always wanted, somebody that's like thinks differently. Not We don't think exactly the same, and but we're able to work together. So you can welcome Pam. And she has a company, Glinda School of Alchemy, which is really awesome. So Spirit and Coffee and Glinda School of Alchemy did a partnership, Women of Consciousness, and so what we bring to you. So Pam, if you want to introduce yourself, and just, give some background about yourself.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sally. Yeah, my name's Pam or Pamela. Let's see. So yeah, 4 years in the JFK program, right, the consciousness and transformative studies that has completely just altered life. Nothing's really been the same since that journey began. So now that it's, completed and we've graduated, just ready, super excited to take all this knowledge and wisdom and life experiences and really help, other people understand and grow and educate them. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. And I think the cool thing, and this is what I love, is, Pam, she is always talking about astrology, the stars, the planets, where they're at, all the things that I don't do. But that's cool because it adds a little bit of flavor, right, to what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's pretty awesome. That she does that. She can give us some updates when we do the podcast on what's happening, which I think is really cool, like a forecast of, hey, this is what's going on. Here's what you should be, um, paying attention to, what you should be looking out for. Here's, where your best creativity is going to come in, all the cool things that, I personally am not on track with that stuff. Or whatever. I should be.
It's
I know.
a lot. It can get overwhelming.
I know. So that's kind of nice. And then, hopefully people will start to join back in.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
yeah, it's been a while since I've done this. So I don't know, if people are still coming to join, but we can send out, some invites to individuals so that they can rejoin, and hopefully you guys will see that it is an expansion of Spirit and Coffee, and it's going to be more there'll be more topics, more insights, more different ways of approaching life. There's not, I've always said, there's not just one way to approach something. There's many ways to approach something. And if you have more individuals who are sharing insights, sometimes others resonate a lot better with other people.
Mhm.
And,
Yep.
and then that makes it, a lot easier. And so we'll have guests and stuff like that. But I think it's
Yeah.
just going to be
Super
fun to
exciting.
bounce ideas. Yeah. Um, so women of consciousness, and what does that even mean, right? Consciousness is such a vast word, and it's like a huge word. It's like, oh, what is consciousness? Well, the reality is consciousness can be defined in so many different ways. um, and you even have scientific ways of describing it, where you have science, talking about neuroscience and how the brain operates and works and all that kind of stuff. You have people who believe consciousness is everything, that it exists in everything, inanimate, animate objects. Consciousness, so it's all this stuff. It's the universe. It's the one mind. And I think it just opens up the floodgates for so many topics and ways of looking at the world. And so it's almost,
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's almost to me like it's almost like alchemy, right? It's like alchemy has all these different ways that you can approach life,
Mhm.
and I think consciousness is kind of the new
Yep.
new terminology for alchemy, perhaps, or something like that, right? Because both of them can just unfold in certain ways. So, but
Absolutely.
yeah. So tell me what you think about consciousness, Pam. Like, what's your take on it?
Um Well, I definitely think it's this awareness, right? Like once you, because there's the unconscious, right? What's kind of buried and what we don't know. We're just on autopilot, right? We don't have to really focus on, closing our eyes or, breathing. It just comes natural. But then when you are like, oh, I'm holding my breath, right? Now you're like aware of how you're breathing. So it's just that small shift, I think, is kind of like the conscious awareness of the person, the animal, whatnot. Um, I definitely think like you're saying, inanimate objects like stones and crystals and things like this, they have like a vibrational, whether it's conscious or not, there's definitely a vibrational frequency, and they definitely have like these properties where quartz crystals are great recorders, and there's different things like that. So I think there's levels of consciousness like that we don't fully understand, that we're working towards. But the basic way that I can really describe it is just like this awareness. Either you don't see it and then you do, or, or you change it. Like you said, you get a new perspective, and it's like you become conscious of a new idea or thought or, action or like sensation in the body, that before was a blind spot.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and there's like these great theories about consciousness, and then the development of consciousness and how it evolves into different things. And I always was like, why humans are so different. And I think that's the big question. I think that's what
Mm.
we've been trying to understand, is why we're so vastly different. And different how, in the fact that we are constantly questioning and trying to find some magical answer to our lives.
Right, over analyzing maybe just a little.
Yes, we overanalyze, we do all these things, and with that, I want to
Right.
do like little one. This is what we do. We're looking for a fairy godmother. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to do that. But
I love it.
sorry, I didn't really see the audio effects in the past, so now I'm like, oh,
Right.
that's
It
cool.
reminds me of like NBC, that when they used to, do like the after school programming, and the star would go across and it'd be like, the more you know.
I know exactly. The more you know, the more confused you are. So
Right. That's what we're doing.
so so but yeah, and I think with humans we overcomplicate stuff, and it's
Yeah.
funny because then we think about consciousness like, well,
Mm,
oh, okay, well, consciousness is like just being aware of the unknown, and that's great. But
mm,
I think we're just looking for this magical answer to all of these questions, which it's cool if you don't let yourself get away with it. And I think that's kind of where people, they kind of get away with it, right? They
Mm,
start feeling like they have no purpose or meaning, and they're trying to find their way through life, and they don't know how to just be
yeah.
in the moment, which is, it's not easy to just be, right? That's like
Yeah.
one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
And then know that you're worthy and enough. And I think that's always been my purpose, even with Spirit and Coffee. That, I mean, that's my purpose. And it's understanding that, you know there's not just one magical way or one magical answer or
Yeah.
one, it's a journey. There's many ways. And that's, so consciousness is like, okay, well, there's layers too. Like, if you're talking about it from that
Yes.
perspective, like there's like this core, these big layers that you peel back to try to get to
Mm,
this causation or core of why we
right.
feel so screwed up sometimes.
The onion kind of analogy, like, or the iceberg, right? The deeper you go into the subconscious.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
and trying to pull it out. We're fishing for stuff, and it's
Yeah.
funny because if we don't have stuff to fish for, then we get bored and we start fishing for things that aren't even there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was my experience over the weekend. Kind of like watching other people on their healing journey, and in that moment knowing like, oh, I'm not working on anything. Like, and there was this little voice that's like, well, don't go looking. Like, you don't need, if there's nothing coming to the surface right now, like, just be and enjoy it. Like, you don't need to go searching for, like, full soul fragmentations to like retrieve. Like, you're getting a break in this moment.
But it's, and we forget to like have gratitude for those moments where there's,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's weird. We always have to be in some emotion, and that's fine because we know that, like, the real constant, right? Anything that
Mm,
we know for sure, it doesn't matter what theory, what things change. At
yes.
least we experience things as change and evolving. Even if you looked at the cosmos and everything like that, because
Mm,
cosmology and is part of consciousness as well, and it's part of
yeah.
consciousness studies where they're looking at how the universe itself is constantly in motion and changing.
Mm,
I like, there was a quote that they said, I really, for you people who haven't watched it, please go. It's called How the Universe Works. It's a really cool show. I just love it. But it's funny because they use funny words to describe like where we are in the universe, right? They're like, we're in the suburbs, like the earth, or galaxies like in the suburbs. You're like, we're just hanging out in the suburbs, and that's why we can have life on this planet, because if we were closer into our black hole that's at the center, right? And of course that's theory, but it doesn't matter. They're like, hey, there's a black hole. If we were at the center of the black hole, right, we would be demolished, right? So sometimes I like to look at these bigger concepts, because what they do is they kind of put me in my place, and I'm like, okay, I'm a tiny little speck in this big grand design. It's beyond my understanding, right? It's beyond everybody's understanding, really.
yeah.
And it's funny because they're like, we're in the suburbs where life is just right. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there's opportunity for life to happen. But beyond that, and this is the great mystery, and this is what makes life cool when you start to think from this way, is that we have the opportunity to question that and to observe it and to
Yes.
be, and then to co-create with it, which is really kind of,
Absolutely.
right? And
Yeah.
to morph. So those things are like, wow, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so tell me what you think about that, Pam.
Oh, no, I love that. It's true. My favorite thing I read in a book, I don't know, it was like the psychic Sylvia Brown, back when Montel was on in like the 90s. I remember being fascinated by her always being a guest, and she wrote lots of books. And in one of them, she would talk about how she would meet up with groups of people, knowing where the aliens were going to come and visit, so they would go out there for these sightings. And in her book, she described it that Earth, the planet Earth, is the insane asylum of the universe. And this is where like we all come to learn, right? Because we know it's a learning school, but at the same point, it's like the insane asylum. Like only the bravest souls, can really come here and navigate it. So like that has always stayed with me from the, I don't even know what book it was. I just know like that one sentence has always like been in the back of my mind because I'm like, how true is that? We're, running around like crazy people all the time, making up these absurd rules. Like, I'm like, oh, I gotta follow. No, like we built it, we can destroy it and recreate it. Like,
Oh my
oh,
God.
I feel like the suburbs is nice, right? But maybe a little too peaceful. Like
I agree.
we're hiding out in this nice suburban area, and like that's really cloaked in illusion.
I know, right? It gives us too much opportunity to question why we're here, and then we get uncomfortable with it. But
Yeah,
um, one of the things they were saying was like, the universe is constantly trying to kill us, and I just thought that was hilarious because there's just there's so much, there's so much destruction and stuff like that happening, within the entire universe. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Which is
yeah,
crazy. So we are kind of here just like hanging out, questioning, being able to observe, being able to try to understand why we're here, what our
mhm,
purpose is. And I think that's the biggest thing. But I think here's what I think is that having life purpose is probably one of the most powerful things that we do have as well, if we can
yes,
tap into that potential. But
yeah,
most people spend their lives not being able to tap into that. And that's because
yeah.
of like you said, the crazy rules that we've made as humans.
Yeah, we are literally conditioning, through governments and societies and cultures. Like, your purpose is to get married. Your purpose is to have children. Your purpose is to go, drive into a cubicle from 9 to 5 and
Right.
then come home and zone out on a TV and maybe get vacations, twice a year. Like, that's not a purpose, like we need to expand. And I think really truly understand that as a mother, like of four, that is part of my huge soul purpose, is just to experience, this kind of close relationship, breaking intergenerational, lineage stuff that's been passed down in the bloodline. And that's
Mm,
like a bigger purpose. And you got the black sheep of the family, that's the outcast. And it's like, well, did you ever really think about like why you're the outcast, like what your role really is, like,
mhm,
to and so I think the whole concept of like, our purpose is not to go be actors in Hollywood and like that kind of fantasy. It's really sometimes just to show up and to be that caring or comfort, for someone else, or to find a way to help pass on the wisdom and the knowledge, right? So
mhm,
that I feel like purpose really, if you look where your passion is, really look into your heart, what you're passionate about and what really drives and desire, is there. Cause I feel like that's entwined with purpose.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's hard for people to get to that purpose. I think here's what I do. I see people are really looking for it. They're really trying to
Yeah.
understand how to tap into their own divine purpose. And yeah,
Yeah.
especially in the Western world, you look at the people are so disconnected and
Yeah.
they don't. I think even with COVID, like this big
Yes.
long pause, they started to realize like what the
Hmm.
hell am I doing? And
Yeah.
and then people had to go back to work, and I can guarantee you those people are like, why am I doing this? Like for what?
Yeah.
We get that the world goes round and that we have these resources we need, but I saw another meme. I've been like zoning out to memes on Facebook. I'm like, Natalie, you need to stop this. But whatever.
It
Um, but
happens.
that can sound smart on the podcast or something. I'm just kidding. But it was like we're the only species that has to pay for food, and I was
Right.
like, so true. Like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
I just do we ever just sit back like these people? Like, I get it. There's like these individuals who want to control, right? They just have
Hmm.
this desire to control and manipulate and bend all the rules and do all this stuff whatever for their own personal gain, right? Like I was in Florida. This guy had like 50 boats. Like they were just hanging out, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? Like, okay, I get it. Maybe you have, whatever. But who needs 50 boats? You're not even driving the 50 boats. I bet they just sit there looking pretty. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, for what? I just don't get it. Okay. Now it might sound a little judgmental and maybe it is. And I'm only thinking like this because I'm like, I think that consumerism and greed has gotten way the hubris,
Yeah.
the greed, all has just it's over exaggerated at this point. You know,
Yeah.
it's cool. You're gonna take it out. Maybe you need two boats because you have like a bunch of friends, but eight boats of for what that are just sitting there. I bet you they sat there for years, right? So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, wow, like I don't understand this, like humans, right? And I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand why this, and I'm like, well, that's what's going on. I think we are consumed with flashy things, right? Because
Mhm.
it keeps us from really looking at what's happening, what's going on internally.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
and then looking at internally is to like say, oh shit, like I have this greater divine purpose that I have to do, but you have to face all of these like crazy demons, if you want to call them that, or dark night of the soul, if you want to call it that, whatever you're going to call it,
Mm.
going to have to face all that, right? And that means that you're going to have to sit still. And it's
Yep.
in this stillness, right, that we find it. And every major sage has said this, right? From Buddha
Mhm.
to Christ to anybody, the
Mhm.
Druids. If you look at all these people, the shamans, they stood in complete silence. They didn't need a lot of things because they understood that's where the gems lie. They lie within our own understanding of our
Yep.
potential, our true potential, not to have a bunch of things,
Yeah.
but to be able to add value back to the world. And that is a hard place to be. How do we add value back into the world in a way that it creates legacy, right? It leaves this
Right.
legacy for us
Yep.
beyond.
Mm.
I'm just thinking, wow, like we have the potential to do that. We have the ability to do that. Yet we are so far manipulated and pressured from society and the way, especially the Western world. I like to just keep saying that. Um,
Yeah.
from these rules and these
Yep.
weird things that we've created as humans. It's kind of like Claire Graves, right? I like to talk about Claire Graves because he did say it. He said it perfectly. The more that we try to solve problems, the more problems arise, right? The more that we
Mm.
try to solve things, the more problems occur. So it's like just sit in the stillness and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, maybe things will start to self correct or whatever. Just like the
Yeah.
earth.
Right.
So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, definitely, I agree, and that's the problem. Like, we're not, I mean, when you think about like as kids in school, right? Like just even trying to move your body is it's like sit still, don't move. And it's so hard for children, to do that. And then we become adults and it's like the complete opposite where we just are still like, oh, distraction, distraction. Like I don't want to go within because we know like we, it's all about, and you were talking about this earlier about like how does consciousness evolve, right? So the way I have on my journey and through my own experiences working, with myself, consciousness is going to grow and evolve when you like hit your morals, when you go inside and you really assess your values and your integrity, when you really look at your relationships, right? When you can take accountability for all of the things that you have done that's been hurtful to another, as well as forgive all of the people that have hurt you. And that's really hard. People don't know how to forgive. They hold like if they don't have that hatred or that anger, like how are they gonna like wake up in the day, especially when there is pain and loss, kind of on the other end of that they're like not, getting into. Um, so it's like we don't even know fully, how to understand our internal world of emotions and thoughts, and then we have these concepts of good and bad. So then there's shame. There's this underlying, everybody's kind of shamed for, whether they shame themselves or feel their own guilt or, they have family members or friends that make them feel that. And so it's really takes a lot of courage, I think, to want to sit in stillness and to face the ugly parts of us, as well as the beautiful parts that again are also right sometimes rejected or not acknowledged, right? We're never appreciated for any of that, so we don't see it in ourselves. Um, but the more that we can find the stillness, the more that we can do that integrational work, right? The shadow work. Yeah, it's going to trigger a dark night of the soul, like you said. It's going to bring you into some really low vibrational, dark places of anxiety and fear and depression and sadness and loneliness. But at the same point, like, it's only a phase. You're not going to get stuck there forever. And that's the thing. I think people get stuck there, and then there's like medications, right? The pharmacy companies that are abusing that, like alcohol being pushed on us as a society because that's acceptable. You can be a drunk, or you can, like self medicate. Um, but so it's like even the tools aren't there. And then the ones that are just to keep us in that space so that we can't really fully heal and
Mm-hmm.
evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels like us against the world sometimes, or so I can understand why people kind of have that perspective of like the world's always out to get me. But if
Mm-hmm.
you can shift it, like if you can do the work and gain the courage and the strength, I think it's a battle that's worth kind of fighting and winning.
Yeah,
um because
I agree.
something has to give as a human species.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I feel like the universe has its own journey, right? The planet Gaia has her own kind of hero's journey. She's got her own kind of thing mapped out. And, we think we're in charge all the time, and that we're like on the top of the list, priority wise, but it's not true. We are connected and we are part of this system. We are not the ones in control.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. But
And
we try, and I think that's
yeah,
the big thing, right? Is like these people
yeah,
are just trying to control it all. It's almost like Pinky and the Brain, right? They're like, I'm trying
yes.
to rule
Yeah.
the world. Well,
Yes.
a lot of people have tried and they have failed because it's too
Yeah.
hard for all that
Yep.
power to be in the hands of one individual or even a group of individuals, right? Because
Yeah.
it's break that. There's always the trickster shows up to
Yep.
change the narrative in some way, and they
Yep.
can. I like to talk about that. Can never account for the trickster, right? The trickster's going to show up, and they're going to be like, well, we didn't account for that. So now we're not going on that trajectory. So it's never going to work out, even in the dire times. But you're right with the stagnation of, medications and pharmaceuticals, because it does put people in, keeps them trapped kind of in that space without,
Yeah.
like, the only way out is through, right? So they're
Yes.
like, well, let's just go ahead and medicate individuals so that they don't go through, because that's the
Right.
only way is to face
Right.
it, right? Without any medication. And it's scary. It's not easy. I've had my own addictions that I've had to overcome myself.
Yeah.
And
I feel like
and when I
everybody has, whether
oh
it's food or, TV or sex, like, shopping,
yeah,
like anything that is pleasurable to us, like
yeah,
we can dive into in excess and then becomes an addiction.
it does. And then it's like this thing to like get us from not looking at what we really need to be looking at, right? Which is that
Right.
shadow, that scary part that,
Right.
you know, our own shadow's scarier than any other thing on this planet. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
We start looking at ourselves and going, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Those thoughts that
Absolutely.
come in your head, you're like, "What is this?" And but beyond that, and this is why women of consciousness exist, right? Is because
Mhm.
there is a process, and now is the process the same for everybody? No,
No.
but it is a process.
Yeah, but
And
there's a lot of structures. The universe has its own kind of structure. And I think if you can catch that and find tools that work for
Mhm,
you,
mhm,
um, because it is like we all kind of go through the same themes, like,
mhm, mhm,
but it's just going to be seen different because we're a diverse planet. Diversity is everywhere, and we can't escape that in itself.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, if
absolutely, it's
everything was
finding the
the
right thing for
same,
you.
if everything was the same, nothing would exist, right?
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 Right.
Because
What
it
would
all,
be the point? It would be so boring.
but it couldn't be the same, because then it would, right? It would cease to exist
Right.
because there would only be one, because it'd be the
Abs-
same, right?
Absolutely.
but yeah, it's like that there is that diversity and but I like that what you said, there's structure. And that's true. There is a structure if you can catch that structure. I
Hmm.
like that. If you could
Yeah.
catch that structure, then you can and then
Yes.
you can co-participate too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
With yeah. And I think
And
that's what do
that's
astrology. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, and that's what we're doing. Like, that's the mission of Women of Consciousness, right? Like, all of these things that we've gone through, that we've studied, that we've seen and experienced, and we've caught on. We've awoken to the structure of alchemy, right? And how to really use that in the day to day. And so here we are. We're trying to help people. We're trying to help them break out of the matrix, break out of, this kind of slave mentality to consumerism and capitalism, because like the truth is, like, the government don't really care about us. Like, these companies don't care about us. They just see us as numbers that, like, fill quotas to put money in their pockets and make them more powerful.
Mhm. Yep.
And like humanity, again, going back to the consciousness of the universe and the planet, like, we're going back into this, balance. We're going into this oneness again. And so that journey is going to take time, but we see it, you and I see it in waves of feminine and masculine,
Mhm.
um and so, like, yeah, I feel like it's about trying to help people see that,
Oh, I love
because the more of us that can catch on to that wave and ride that wave,
mhm.
it's going to help evolve us as a species to where we're going.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think people are catching on too.
Oh yeah.
Because the thing is, even in consumerism, right, or capitalism, because we one day we're gonna have a thing about spiral dynamics on here. So just so you guys know who are
Yes.
on here. And by the way, I just want to stop. I know we're just like talking because we get excited about this stuff, but welcome to those who are on as well. So
Yes,
thank you guys
welcome.
for tuning and being here with us and stuff. And um, you can always put comments at the bottom. Eventually, we'll like you guys can ask questions and stuff like that if you want to. But we just want to thank you for being here and being
Yes.
live with us. So
Yes.
that's always fun. I like to do the live. I love to see that people are engaging or on. But you guys are always welcome to put some quotes at the bottom, whatever. People get engaged, involved. But but yeah, I think we there's in spiral dynamics, it's a theory, a theoretical framework. I'm not going to get into it because it's so much, but
It's all so
part
much.
of it well, part of it is the capitalism, and it is a worldview, it is a paradigm, and
Hmm.
it
Yep.
served its purpose for whatever reason for us to evolve in
Yep.
our own consciousness as well. But we've got to outgrow that at some point, and we've got to move
Yes.
forward because
Yes.
staying in capitalism is going to it's basically going to dry up all the resources faster than we need to.
Mm.
So it's good. It's not that it's terrible. It's just that it's terrible because it's too much.
Right.
And it's too much greed, too much.
Yeah.
It's becoming this monstrous um paradigm that's like I would say it's like Kali. It's just eat all the stuff. I just have to eat everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, slow down. You can't eat it all at once. Like, slow down. Let's just savor it, right? But,
Hmm.
that's not really what's happening, right? The guy with 720 boats, whatever he has, I'm like, oh my God. I don't understand one man having that many boats, but whatever. Maybe I
Right.
know it's judgmental. Trust me, I know. But it's not necessary for how is that adding value back to the world is what I that's how I like to think of things, like how is it adding back. I'm very
Yeah.
minimalist myself, um and I like nice things. I'm not saying I don't like nice things. I'm not saying I wouldn't go on a boat. That's not what
Right. But you
I don't
don't
need
need
to.
excess.
I don't need excess, but you know
Yeah.
I am human, and I have like maybe an excess of pens. I probably have too many
Right.
pens.
Well,
I'm
that's
looking
way
at it.
different. That's way different.
I'm looking at it like, okay, well, maybe I have too many pens. But I constantly will give stuff away
Yes, me
because
too.
I feel very claustrophobic when I have too much stuff anyway. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't
I
breathe.
I feel like I've been decluttering my house for like
Mhm.
years. It's been
Mhm.
8 years
Mhm.
since my divorce. And I feel
Mhm.
like for 8 years now, I'm still trying to like, get rid of stuff and get rid of stuff. And with,
Mhm.
4 kids, like,
Yeah.
yeah, they accumulate a lot. And that's the thing too, because it's like these holidays and all of that, and then birthdays. And it's
Mhm.
like they roll around and I'm like, man, like you guys have everything you need. Like there's,
Exactly.
and over the years, it's like, okay, I'm going to stop buying like, puzzles. I'm going to stop buying like
Yeah.
all of the small pieces because everything gets lost and not played with. And then it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not even going to do Christmas. Like, I will do like a stocking and maybe one gift. And then let's go on a family vacation.
Oh, I
Let's go
like that.
spend let's go spend a week. And so that's what we do. Like last winter, we went down to like Newport, Rhode Island
Mhm.
and stuff, and went to some museums. I went to like a zoo and, it was just beautiful. Like, and so for me, it's like, let's find ways of making memories rather than
Mhm.
like showing
Mhm.
people we love them by having to buy them stuff or
Mhm.
feeling like we have a void and we're lonely. So we're constantly like buying, trying to fill these voids within us with consumerism.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I've realized for me, it is spirituality. Like I can see that now when I am not like completely connected with source, when I have to be too much, in the human kind of world and I lose that balance. Like there's a part of me that is craving connection with like my gods and my goddesses and doing my ceremonies and my rituals. And so when I'm out there, under a full moon, which we have a new moon in 2 days, like I'm so excited to tap in and be out there and just feeling like, okay, this energy is coming from the universe. And this is a great time for new beginnings and like looking at all the projects I'm starting or, with a full moon, just being like, okay, it's time to let go and like burn stuff, in the fire to release it. And like, yeah, in the same way, I don't want to clutter and hold on. Like we've got to detach and let go, and that's the biggest thing Buddha was trying to teach, right? Attachment causes suffering.
Mhm. Mhm. It
Yeah.
does. It
Yeah.
really does. And so, yeah, so moving forward, moving on, letting go, releasing all of those things. And also, it's almost like when you let go of that stuff, you're letting go of
Mm.
these maybe parts of yourself that are weighing you down too. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
as within, so without, it's really true. It's like,
Mm.
I remember when I was moving into my apartment, right? And I was like, I was with my therapist. I'm like, I have this one box. And, because I was having all these anxiety attacks. And I think after, COVID,
Mm.
anxiety, I had never had anxiety attacks, or I at least I probably held the anxiety so deep in my tissues and in my body that I didn't even realize it until I
Right.
had to stop and things changed. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And it was anxiety. And I was like, my heart rate was, I mean, I was just this ball of like anxiety and
Yeah.
I didn't know how to manage it. And there was this one box that I was like, it was like the clutter in my head. And I was like, I don't know why I can't bring myself to go through that box, but it's like hindering me from moving forward because it's that space in my mind that's cluttered.
Yes.
And it was just this really deep connection between my internal world and my external world. And I started saying, wow, like I can see the connection of the internal and internal because I'm able to look at this box and I know that my head, like I can't move forward. I feel overwhelmed. I have this anxiety and it's clutter. And then I need to get rid of it. And then I couldn't figure out how to do it. And finally she was like, well, try, why don't you try one thing at a time, just at least just open it up and then do this. And I went through it and I think there was like, I don't even know, there was like maybe 8 things in there wasn't even a lot of stuff in there, but I was making it bigger than it was, right? And I was like, you're just really making this bigger than it needs to be. um
Right.
yeah, but and so there's this deep connection of as within so without, that I look around at my
Yes.
space and I like wide open, kind of empty space, not a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And I like to be able to get up and go whenever I please. Like if I want to move, it's not, I don't have a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really easy for me to be mobile and kind of migrate into different places or whatever, right? So like a nomad or whatever, which is what we used to do. And I think us as a human race kind of getting back to that,
Yeah.
um, it's going to be important. There's a lot of people on the planet, so it's kind of hard. Where like I mean, there's a lot of people that are on the planet at this point in time,
Yeah.
and we'll see how many people actually are willing to sort of reconnect with Earth, because you have this, and this is something we talk about on the podcast at one time, is that you have this connection from the Earth, but also AI is starting to take over. And so I think
Yeah.
this is kind of my theory, and I think I've talked about it before. It's like I think there's going to be this split, right? It's kind of like in the Matrix in a way, where there's like, well, we're Zion, we're the natural people, and then you have these people that are totally connected to the Matrix, right? Or they're going
Yeah.
into cyberspace or whatever. And we're headed in that direction. You can tell, you can see it,
Yeah.
where AI is coming into play, where I think there's going to be a time where people will choose between, and my kind of theory is that the cyberspace world is more of you reincarnating, because I think eventually you're going to be able to upload like your consciousness into a program. I think they're already
Yeah.
doing it, right?
Oh, they're
um
doing crazy stuff with
there's,
implants and the
yeah,
chips in the hand and the brain and like, yeah, I'm all
uh,
set.
yeah, and then you can even
Oh,
be put into a robotic body. You don't,
yeah.
like your whole consciousness, like they put you into this. So
Mhm.
who knows? Like it literally is coming to that. And I
Right.
think I believe, and I don't think it'll be our lifetime, might be the next lifetime or whatever, is that there's going to be a point where you'll have people who are trying to live organic, and natural within in the earth, and others who are, going into this cyber world,
Yeah.
AI stuff, and neither is right, wrong, good or bad, right? It's all alchemy.
Right.
I feel, those who are like, I'm really kind of done with this. Like, to me, in alchemy, the thing I never really understood is the elixir of immortality. Like, I don't want to live here forever. I get that people want to live forever, but like, I don't want to live particularly here in this insane asylum, like you said earlier.
Right. Right. There's other planets. There's something better out there in the multiverse. Like, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but they're like, is the grass greener on the other side? Maybe not. But
Right.
but who knows where you'll land up, right? You might be like,
Right.
damn, back on Earth, it was way better there.
Right. But I think it all depends on how you evolve your soul, but that's a whole different kind of
I know.
long-winded conversation.
That's
There's
what
other
kind
better places. You just got to do the work and evolve your soul so it doesn't have to come back to the school asylum.
of school asylum. I just love that. I think it's hilarious. And
Yeah.
I do think it's true, right? Like we're just like a
Yeah.
bunch of crazies. We all have our opinions,
Mm,
and everybody's like this, and then they get into the whole political
yeah.
arena stuff, and I'm like, nah, I can't do all that. I'm sorry. It's a human construct, right? Politics and stuff. It's a human construct.
Yeah.
The natural world is a lot more, well, it is a lot more, well, I don't know, I would say it's a lot more violent, but I guess it's equally violent, in the real world. You have, if you look at nature itself, right, we're not,
Yeah.
putting black widows and praying mantises in jail for like eating their partners.
Right. Right.
Which is
Oh,
like, okay, that's all. I'm probably getting off topic. You guys are probably, what the hell is this girl talking about now? um, go all over the place, but it's true, because
right.
if a human did something like that, you definitely would be in jail. Um,
Yeah. But the
because
truth is, we have those basic animalistic instincts that are still part of our reptilian, lower brain. So but that's part of facing your darkness, though. It really is. That's where like the shadow work comes in, and it's about accepting and understanding that. Like, it doesn't mean I need to go out and actually kill and hurt people, but I can understand that, yes, I'm psychologically and neurologically wired
Mhm,
to defend myself, or it's
mhm,
horrible, especially as a parent, because we do see that a lot in culture, but yes, animals, they sense something wrong with the baby in the pack, or like, and they will take out the weakest or the illness, or whatever, get too overwhelmed and by parenthood, right, and snap. And it's
yep.
like, we are no different than any other species of animals. Like, we get pushed to a limit, like we snap. yeah, and but then it comes down to the morals and the judgment and all the things that those other species don't have.
Right. Which
But
separates us, right? Because
yeah,
you know what I mean? That's what makes us unique in our own
exactly.
right, which is cool because that gives us the opportunity to co-participate and know that we're co-participating with the
Yes.
divine. But we can never truly get there until we face, like you said, that reptilian shadow side. We have to go through it. We have to be able to
Yes.
face it, right? I think there was. I'll say this last thing, and then if you want to do like maybe a chart reading or something of what's going on, that would be cool. But
Okay.
I think it was thick that said something like, "Oh, it is," and there's a video you guys could watch it. I don't know where you guys could find it, but it's talking about like I am. I don't know if we saw this in our class. Maybe we saw it in our class, one of our classes, but it was like. I am the murderer. I am the rapist, and it's you say those things. It's like, whoa, what? But what he was trying to say is that we are all of it. We
Yeah.
are, it's part of the collective unconscious, the collective consciousness,
Yeah.
and it's there. We are Cain. You know what I
Right.
mean? We are all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And but the thing that we don't want to accept is that we are this part of like humanity that's like very,
Yeah.
very reptilian. Like you said, it's like we are the mantis, we are the black widow, we are all these things, and it's like whoa. And then it's hard to like sit with that because most people are like, no, I'm good, I'm this, I'm that. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we all have the shadow. And to be a true alchemist and to truly live your divine purpose, you have to face that. Even Jesus
Yeah.
Christ went out and faced his demons, right? He went
Yeah.
out the devil, right? So there's even that story's there. So for Christians, people who are Christian, everybody had to face their darkness, and it's scary. I'll be the first to say it is a scary thing to face, and
Yeah.
and then once you do, and you're able to like understand how to transform it, transmute it, you can start living a life of purpose, and know your heart, right? And know that your heart is good and healed.
Yeah.
And then people who hang out in that darkness or whatever you want to go. I don't want to. I hate to call it darkness. It's not really darkness, but they hang out in the shadows and are stuck there.
Yeah.
I feel like you said, it's not their time. Maybe it's not their time to evolve into a different. Maybe that's their lesson for this time
Right.
to
Absolutely.
and then to evolve from.
Yeah.
So crazy. So if you could, for our listeners,
Yeah.
I love that, Pam is part of this now.
Yeah.
So if you want to tell us kind of what's going on, astrology, what's happening, what
Yeah.
people should be aware of. So go
Right.
ahead, Allie.
Well, kind of, tailing off of what you were just saying and going into that, like we are living, like the way I see it is like it's a spectrum, right? A spectrum of vibrational frequencies. And so you have very low vibration that is dark and dense, unconscious or very low consciously, it's not evolved. And then you have like, all the way up on the other spectrum, and a million places in between. But then you have like the gurus, right? The people that have done the work, the high vibrational energy of the love and the peace and the harmony, right? And these are higher frequencies that don't feel heavy. It feels light on the body, and we're just so, and then it's like a pendulum, right? And we see this within the seasons. If you look from the solstices, that's as far as we go into the light or the darkness, right? And then at the equinoxes, we're swinging, back into the other one, but we're like at the halfway mark. And right now, we are just so far swung into like the darker, heavier energies, and like we're trying to kind of swing back, right, and raise all of that frequency up into like a higher vibrational state. And I feel like that's what astrology is trying to help us do, like all of, and it's not even just the planets, the sun is doing stuff, and then we have other suns and other stars in the constellations, and then like even comets and asteroids, they all have their own energetic frequency, and they all have their own kind of like personality trait. So that in itself is like, this cosmic dance, and we're energy, like we're, the part of this quantum, right, this quantum energy electromagnetic energy field. Science has already proved all that. And so when certain alignments happen and things, it can be more intense. And then we're not understanding why we're feeling this, but that's where astrology can come in and help. And so there's been so much. I feel like it's been speeding up and escalating. I feel like the alignments and the shifts have been way more, intense, because it's causing us to awaken on our conscious level. So the biggest one was really this summer. September 3rd is kind of maybe when it ended. So we're just pulling out of Venus. Venus had a retrograde. And a retrograde is when the planets, they slow down in their orbit and they look like they are spinning backwards. And so they will, she was in the sign, the constellation of Leo. And so it will take longer for the planet, like they'll stay in that sign a lot longer. And say, like, I can't remember the exact degrees, but if she was at like 20 degrees in Leo and then she moves back, to like 5, and then she starts her direct position again after like so many weeks of retro, then she's going to go all the way back through Leo. And so, like, we have a lot of planets right now. There's like 6 of them that are all in a retrograde. So Mercury's about to come out on the 15th. He's at the end. So I think that's like one people are really familiar with. They notice it the most because it's travel, electronics, communication, all of those things kind of going haywire. But with Venus, she only goes every 18 months. And so I do oracle readings as part of my business out of a metaphysical store. And this summer, like everybody, like it was mostly women. I do, I'm not going to lie, it's mostly a women based customer. But like, they were just like, wow, like my relationship just ended. My relationship just ended. Like, or when am I going to find love? I'm ready and I'm looking for the partner. And I mean, to me, it was like I knew what was going on. I'm like, all right, yeah, you're tapping into this Venus and Leo because it's all about love, right? Leo is the heart of the zodiac, the Christ consciousness. And with Venus, it rules partnerships and relationships and love and beauty and money, finances. So a lot of relationship and financial, July, August, and September, like, were really impacted. And so that's kind of coming to a close. Mercury's kind of coming to his close. And then we're going into the fall equinox. And so with that, all of the planets, they're really having us slow down and try to make us reflect, right? That's why it's like the retrograde. So it's like the RE, the prefix about, yeah, like like I'm thinking recycle, but that's not really one. But like retrospective, like return kind of even back to what happened maybe a few months ago. And so our culture, though, is like work every day. Work every day. If you slow down, you're lazy. If you're not trying and out there like pushing and marketing, or whatnot, like you're not going to be successful. And when we look at the seasons and how our bodies are attached with that, it's not true. Like, we need to rest in the winter. We need to go within. And right now we're kind of heading in that way, right? We're harvesting what we just grew all summer. Like, we're reaping what we sowed in our own inner gardens and in our lives of what we put out and manifested. And so, like, for you and I, we started in January, right around Mercury retrograde, and started like working, together on all these projects and things. And then the year went through and, that relationship deepened and like, it naturally kind of came into this alignment. But I see Venus and Leo being a massive, like thumbs up for us, like, yes, I'm helping to bring you together. Like, now is this divine timing, right? When you feel that alignment. And then I would just say, really, like eclipse season is the next like big thing. We have two eclipses in October, and that's really, again, eclipses have to deal with like our fate and our destiny. And if you are not where you're meant to be, it will feel like a massive tower moment. Um, and it gets a little complex. I don't know, like dive. I think maybe that could be something we do as it gets closer. Really, just do a whole special around eclipses. Um, but that in itself has been a powerful energy. So I would say, looking back at April and May, when we just had that set of eclipses, because they come in like 6 month kind of cycles where they'll be closing out. So April was closing out kind of last October. So this October is going to kind of close out what started or what was happening in April. So even those are like little mini chapters that we can work with and understand. Okay, where is the universe trying to get me to go?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Well, I think
Yeah.
what we'll do for those listening and stuff like that is we'll do some specials around like what does it mean? Where are the planets? What's happening? What does that mean for your life? What to look out for? You're not crazy. Trust me.
Right.
The our teachers, our shamans, our warrior spirits, our healers, whatever you want to call them, were understood
Mm,
the stars, and it's because we didn't have all the light pollution, right? They understood what was going on in the cosmos, and I kind of feel like that's why we have light pollution, so that we couldn't really see what was happening up there, because it helps us to
yeah.
understand where we are, because we're all connected in that way. And so we will, give you guys some updates. Pam is the one who does that. And can tell you guys like what's going on, so you don't feel like, hey, something's wrong with me. It might be like, hey, this is what's happening in the planets and in the cosmos.
Mm,
Prepare yourself so that you're aware, just so
yeah.
you kind of know. And if you're feeling a certain way,
Yeah.
you can be like, hey, my Venus is in retrograde in Leo or whatever. And then at least
Right.
gives us some way to say what's going on, right? I
Right.
feel this energy naturally without being connected to the cosmos, but I'm always right on. But if you listen to your internal intuition, you'll feel what's going
Yeah.
on around you. But this gives you kind of a dialogue, a narrative to be able to say, hey, this is probably what's going on, knowing that there's always a way out. It's going to come on the other end. You're going to come out of it. You will not always be
Yeah.
in that
Absolutely.
space forever, but you can be like, okay, so I can kind of maybe feel the energy is going to end maybe during this time. And so Pam will help us with
Yeah.
that. And I think it's time to close. So we've been on here for quite some time, which is good. I love it. Thank you for sure.
Right. I
We had
know.
a nice little
It's so
audience,
fun.
though, but you guys are mean the world to us. So, send us
Yeah. Thank you
comments.
so
You guys are
much.
always welcome to comment in the comment box, put your messages, and if you have questions and stuff like that for us. But we will be getting on here more often. I do miss getting on the podcast and sharing experiences with you and talking about everything from aliens to whatever it is, right? The cosmos. I mean,
Right.
consciousness is so huge. Who knows? Um,
Yeah.
but everything from the quantum to the macro to the micro, if you want to put it that way. So thank you guys for
Yep.
joining us. We love you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And we will see you soon. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.